thing he called GG and then helped himself to our food. Tell a cryptid story. Wow. Hi, Chris. How you doing today? All right. Let me finish reading this real quick, and then we'll go to story time. All right. Let's go then. All right, Chris. Hold on a second. All right. So, La Llorona. Trying to think, other cryptids that, because, See, the problem with cryptids is I don't know if certain ones should fall under folklore or, cryptid stories. So like you've got La Llorona and skinwalkers and well, I guess skinwalkers and Wendigo. We could give you those three options, but like Wendigo is definitely cryptid, even though it's kind of a dark tale kind of thing. But La Llorona is a ghost story as well, but it's like so which one are you looking at? Which one do you want? And then skinwalkers, like I feel like most people know what a skinwalker is. Okay, so Wendigo are actually really fun because they're from my family. So the Wendigo is terrifying. Yes. Basically an Algonquin myth. So most of the Algonquin tribes of the northeastern United States, because my father was actually born up in New York, like on the border of Canada, and this is like from that kind of area. It's not just there, but like all the tribes there kind of have a version of this. We have the Wendigo. The Wendigo is when deep in the winter, when food is scarce, you can't really hunt. There's not a lot of people around, or not a lot of like stores around or anything like that to help you get through it. Like say it was a poor harvest or something. A lot of those tribes, you got to remember, were hunter gatherers, and so like they had some farm fields to put stuff away, but primarily it was foraging for berries and whatever kind of meat they could get. So what happens is the hunger sets in. Think we can actually use the Donner Party kind of for this, because and I'll explain this a little more later, but like you get done and the hunger sets in and you get desperate and things, and then slowly the people, the older members of your society start to disappear, and you find bones, you find blood, but you never figure out what. And someone or someones, because it's possible multiple people can be hit with this, are suddenly much more peppy than everyone else and much more doing much better, and they proceed to go through and eventually will either get caught, in which case they get executed because cannibalism is a big no-no, because that's what's happening. They're eating people. Or they run into the woods, because in these myths, eating people, cannibalism, mutates your soul, and your soul begins to reflect in your body. So when Wendigo, you'll eventually hear like these cursed cries, like a very similar to a manly voice or womanly voice, but like wrong. Like there's a weird echo to it. It reverberates weirdly and such, and you hear them in the woods in these cold climate like forests of the United States. Get the hell away! Don't just get out. So if you do happen to run into a Wendigo, they're said to be taller than average because your body lengthens and distorts as you become a Wendigo. Depending on the tribe, some grow antlers and or stuff. Some start to wear fetishes based on the old term of fetish, you know, like a religious artifact or like a like bones and shit like that. But your body distends and grows. You have a grotesquely extended stomach while still being skeletally thin, but 6-7 feet tall, or so 7-8 feet tall. Your limbs become like real weird and gangly. Think kind of like Slender Man, but like more skeletal, and like the skin is stretched all across it. Their eyes become a pale, real deep, a pale yet real deep dark color that glow in the dark, and their teeth become sharpened, and then their skin becomes very pallid. And after the transformation starts, it doesn't stop, and they live in, you know, the caves and the forests of the far north, the United States and like Canada. Yeah. The necromorphs definitely took some level of inspiration from them. But yeah, so they prey on like hikers and travelers and campers and stuff up there and drag them into their caves. The scariest part that isn't actually in every tribe, but a lot of tribes, yeah, they're in the US. This is a Native American legend cryptid. This is, you remember how I said last time my father's full-blood Seneca? This is one of ours. But they're actually New York State, buddy. There's supposedly Wendigo up by Niagara. But the scariest part of the Wendigo in some tribes, not all tribes, if you have a Wendigo in your family, their human soul it comes back. Their human soul is, as long as they're not the final member of their family, will continue to visit their family members and try to coax them down the path, because they say that the Wendigo is lonely. It wants its family back, but it has become this monster through hunger and cannibalism, and they literally can never be full. That's another big point for them, is they literally are incapable of feeling full. They're always starving because they've went through the deepest depths of depravity for food. But yeah, in some tribes, mine included, the human souls come back to the family and try to coax their family members into following the same path so that they can have company. So yeah, that's a Wendigo. But that's if was it the first episode of Supernatural they dealt with a Wendigo? They did like a really good job in that one though, when they fought the Wendigo. It was in the first season, but they did actually a very good job with the description and how it acted and stuff. Yeah, Wendigo. Okay, so fun story. This is pulling the curtain back a little bit. Okay, so as I said, that's honestly, yeah, it is. So this one actually hits a little close to home for me. I have a thing that visits me on a regular basis. And there's, long story short, my father was adopted because his mother was underage and blah blah blah. His father was never to be seen after his mother found out. It's not a good story. Anyway, there's as long as I can remember, one of our co-workers left because of rumors we found out about Wendigos one day and refused to be able. Yeah. I would be surprised considering the fact that the area that we live in, Divine, also had tribes that had them in their legends. So, but anyway, so as long as I can remember, I've woken up at least once a week. It's been hit or miss. It hasn't really actually. It's been about once every 2 weeks lately, but and there's been a person standing at the foot of my bed. This person is dressed in like 1930s noir gear, has a pained look, rotting look face, but it's obscured by this weird like dark mist, and he just watches me. He just stands there and watches me. I'll wake up, like I'll wake up, I'll have a sleep paralysis situation, I'll be able to see it, and then I'll fully wake up and it'll still be there, and it won't go away until daylight. I've kind of learned to just ignore it and go back to sleep because, you know, it's been happening literally my whole life. But that was a large portion of like the start of my night terrors issues. He one of the theories is that he's possibly a family member, because the family members are supposed to come to you in a form you're comfortable with, kinda, because their soul can never be fully true back to together again all the way. But one of the theories is like he might be like a past Wendigo in the family coming to me. I have other theories. I think he's my grandfather. My dad thinks he's his father as well, because my dad also has seen him and sees him. But yeah, so like that one hits a little close to home, but it's a really good story. It's terrifying. I love, it's one of my favorite cryptids, but that's kind of the East Coast version of the Skinwalker. So it's yeah, it's a good one. And I generally am going to try to keep these more on the funny side. Yeah, I swear I've told you about that, Divine. My one of my oldest memories. I was 3 years old, and I was laying in my bed, and it was my little brother had just turned a year old. My little brother had to have open heart surgery before he was a year old. He had just turned a year old, just got cleared from the open heart surgery. Yeah, they're on the upper North Coast, all the way down through like mid Virginia is where the last Wendigo story is. So we're pulling the curtain back a little bit. We're in Maryland, you know. But yeah, my dad was born up by Rochester. So anyway, so one of my oldest memories, I was 3 years old, I was laying in my bed, and I woke up, and this is the first time I remember seeing this thing, and I screamed. I just absolutely just off the wall, like you would expect a 3-year-old to see do when they see that. My father, I was 3, so my father was 23 at the time. He comes running in because I'm screaming bloody murder, and the foot of my bed was right by the door, so he would have had to walk right into this thing to get in there. He throws the door open, and I see my father, my father, who has a fairly dark complexion, ghost white, like as white as my shirt here. And then he sidestepped the thing, tried to ignore it as much as possible, picked me up, and walked away. The thing just watched us the whole time, and we sat downstairs and watched cartoons until daybreak. And like we've talked about it since then and stuff, and he sees it too. But that is one of my oldest memories. So yeah, it's been around for a while. So anyway, that's that's the Wendigo. And I guess we'll get back. But like yeah, like I said, it's one of those things. So like that's a part cryptid, part like folklore, part ghost story kind of thing, and it's like, where does it sit? That's part of why I wanted to divide those up, because there's a lot of things that go kind of in the middle of those, but like don't really fit other categories. So like I wouldn't really call it like a classical mythology story. Like I have spark notes written on like the Norse god Skadi, when she joined the Norse pantheon. It's a funny story, and she basically immediately asked the Norse gods for feet pics. That's a story I have spark notes written on, but I wouldn't call this a classical mythology story, so I wanted to separate those. Like I would call that a classical mythology story. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to the game then. Well, was that satisfying, Chris?